Okay, let's start off with this stupid disclaimer thing that apparently everyone has to do on YouTube. I'm a true crime channel. My videos are for educational purposes and for adults only. I don't do clickbait. I don't do live streams. My videos are pre-recorded videos where I talk about current cases. In this video, I'm talking about the Jennifer Soto case. For anyone who may have actually not heard of it, Jennifer Soto was a 13-year-old girl who went missing only a few days after her birthday in 2024. It was later discovered that her mother's ex-boyfriend was responsible. And now he's locked up, facing 2 trials, one because of images found on his phone, and one for Maddie's death. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump into this video. So apparently, in order to avoid being demonetised, I'm supposed to say this video is for educational purposes, it's for audiences over 18, yada yada, give you my credentials, which I'm not giving because I respect my privacy, all that sort of stuff. And of course, if you can't guess from the blurb before that one, me saying all that stuff made no difference whatsoever. And once again, YouTube decided to demonetize this video. So I'm now at 10 o'clock at night trying to re-edit it in a way that might actually allow me to upload it and even earn just a little bit of money this week. Now, as you might have seen, my first attempt to upload my video about Detective Myra Tagler yesterday was met with demonetisation. After ending up in tears and thinking, well, this is the end of my channel because if all my videos are demonetised, I can't be putting my time into this, I then got angry and I re-uploaded it with a different thumbnail, few little alterations, and bam, it got monetised. So that was a relief. Now, after doing that, I had a video that I needed to upload to my other channel. My other channel is an Australian themed one where I do reaction videos to Australian videos. And so I thought, well, let's just see if this is a true crime thing or if this is right across the board. So I uploaded the original Myra Tagler video, unlisted of course, on my Australian channel. And you know what? Straight away, all the checks went through and it was monetised. The exact same video with the exact same thumbnail that got demonetised on this channel. Of course, out of curiosity, I'm also going to upload the original version of this video, unlisted again, on my other channel tomorrow morning to see what happens with this one also. And that's the thing. I've had so many instances where I've uploaded a video and the bots have decided to demonetize it and I've just changed the thumbnail and it's been fine. The frustration with all the Sterns ones was no matter how many thumbnails I tried, it was still demonetized. The irony, of course, being that when I uploaded the uninterrupted interview, that was monetized. So it seems to me that something that several people have said in the past is correct, and that is that YouTube targets true crime channels. There is no reason for an identical video to be demonetized on this channel and then given monetization on a channel that is basically a reaction channel. What's the difference? The only difference being that my channel is known as a true crime channel. So I'm kind of annoyed with that. There's not really much I can do about it other than I'm now going to keep a record of this. And each time I upload a video that YouTube demonetizes, I'm going to upload it unlisted onto my other channel and see what happens. And then I'm going to have something to say if this does prove to be a thing that YouTube is demonetizing true crime channels and targeting particular channels. I'm sure Strategic Eyes and several other channels would be very interested to know about that. So, having just had my little rant, but I thought you might find that rather interesting. I certainly found it interesting. Having had my rant, this is the final interview that I have that was released from the state. So, as you know, there was a FOIA drop from the state's attorney's office several weeks back now, and all these audios and videos were released unredacted. And we've been finding out a few extra things that we hadn't heard before. This one is the interview that was done with Jen Soto on the 28th of February. This is not the video one, but the audio one that was done prior to that. It's kind of lengthy. It's something like 2 hours long. So I definitely won't get through it all today, but I do want to go through it, especially in light of all the phone calls that we've listened to. Because I certainly found from looking at Sterns' interview, or interviews plural, that having listened to the phone calls, it certainly put things in a different light. So this is part one of the Jen Soto interview from 28th of February. So with that said, let's just jump in.
Reference Orange County case 24-013113. Today is February 28th, 2024. Time is approximately 15:49 hours. Detective Acosta, located at Central Operations, conducting an interview with, and President is Detective Killies.
Are we going to the questions eventually?
Most likely.
Oh, okay, that hasn't started yet?
I'd have to check. I do not know. I've been out here. So. Yeah. You take a seat wherever, man. So like I told you, my name is Detective Police of the Sheriff's Office. This is
Detective Acosta.
your correct? Your mom? Okay. And then dad lives in Texas, I'm assuming? Is that what I understand?
Yes, but he's actually on his way to Florida.
Okay.
I'm so glad that this detective had the respect to refer to Tyler as Dad, as opposed to all these other times where people have referred to Stefan as Dad or Stepdad or stuff like that. When he actually said, "and Dad," I was getting ready to yell and scream. And then when he said he's in Texas, I was like, yes, thank you.
Okay. How long have you and Stephen been together?
Stefan and I have been
I'm sorry,
together.
Stefan.
It's okay. On and off for about 7 years.
7 years?
Yeah.
Okay, and you guys still currently live together?
No. He recently moved back down in December to Northport, Florida.
Okay.
His dad had offered him a job, but it fell through.
Okay.
So he's kind of stuck down there until we can financially afford to bring him back home.
Gotcha.
I wonder what the actual plan there was for Jen until we can afford to bring him back home. Is that why she went back to work, so she could basically fund Stefan moving back in to her townhouse. I mean, this is a woman who has admitted that her relationship with Maddie was so much better when Stefan was gone. This is a woman who should hopefully be aware that her daughter was performing so much better at school since Stefan was gone. And yet she's determined to bring him back. Now, one thing I'm going to do throughout this, and could be a little tricky because they've still redacted Maddie's name, but I'm going to keep a tally of how many times Jen specifically says Stefan and how many times she specifically says Maddie. Because, as you know, Jen almost never says Maddie's name. And here we are within the first few minutes of the interview, and admittedly she was correcting the detective after he said Stephen and she corrected it to Stefan. But even still, she's still saying Stefan already more than she said Maddie. Now, as for this whole notion of him being promised a job down there, from Chris's account, don't forget, Chris was hoping that Stefan would be able to find himself a job down there. There's no mention in any of the interviews from Chris of him offering Stefan a job. He was talking about hoping that Stefan would get a job with one of those bigger chains. I can't remember which one. So again, different stories depending on who you talk to.
We are waiting for. He used to work at Disney.
Okay. What did you do at Disney?
He worked in attractions at Epcot.
Okay.
And
we have to wait. What was the job that his dad was trying to get him? Do you know?
It was like construction manager or like an assistant construction manager or project manager, something like that. Like an apprenticeship kind of thing.
Okay.
Come on, get real. As if Stefan could ever do a job like that. So I'm guessing that lie either comes from Jen or from Stefan. Is it Jen because she's embarrassed by how much of a loser her former boyfriend is? Or is it Stefan because he's embarrassed by how much of a loser he is and likes to talk himself up and try and sound more impressive than he is?
Okay.
That fell through. So we were waiting, we have to wait a specific amount of time for you to reapply to Disney again.
Okay.
From when you resigned.
Right.
So we're waiting for that time for him to reapply again so that he can come back up here.
Well, which is it, Jen? You're waiting till you can afford to bring him back? Or you're waiting till the time frame has elapsed with Disney and then you can bring him back because he can get his old job back? Because you've contradicted yourself and the interview's only just begun.
Okay. So how often does he stay at the apartment with you guys?
So he was living with us up until December.
Okay.
And then he's visited us since December twice or three times since then.
And how long does he usually stay for?
Anywhere from a few days to a week.
Okay. And then he goes back down there?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm assuming he stays with his dad when he goes down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we just acknowledge how irresponsible it is for Jen as a parent to do that? When you are in and out of a relationship with a person, you have to consider your children. And basically, what she was doing to Maddie there was like, oh, he's gone. Oh, he's back. Oh, he's gone. Oh, he's back. That is not a stable environment for a child. And that's even before you take into account what was actually going on in that house. So her saying that he would come back for a week on some occasions is disappointing. It just shows how selfish she is, because she's clearly not put any thought into how it would affect Maddie.
How long has he been in town recently?
He got into town Sunday evening.
This past Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay. And he was staying with you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then how is his relationship?
I would say super great. He treats her as his own child. He always has.
Okay.
Now, bear in mind, the detectives have got the full picture right now. They've done the extraction from Stefan's phone. They've seen what's on his phone. They've got at least some of the surveillance footage. So they know what's actually gone on. It must have been really hard for them to hear her saying, "Oh, he treats her like his own child. Wake up and smell the coffee, you silly woman." So I'm trying to watch my language here in the first half of this video. Like, honestly, we know she doesn't believe that because she said her Woody Allen comment.
They're very similar. They're both very childish. Like, he loves board games, video games, arts and crafts, all that
Right.
stuff.
Okay.
I'm kind of a watcher.
What do you mean?
Like, I won't play the games. I'll watch them play the games.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
be
I
a
see what you're
part of
saying.
it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Did anyone else go to a whole other place when she says, "I'm kind of a watcher"? She's basically talking about them like they're both children. And that she watches them play their little games. Well, tell us which games you were actually watching, Jen.
But he's more involved with that.
Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
Okay. Do they ever go off on their own? Like, you kind of do your thing and the two of them do stuff together?
Hardly ever.
Hardly ever?
It's, for the most part, it's the three of us doing something.
Gotcha. And then
See, that's where I have major problems. She says that they hardly ever went off and did anything on their own. Now, we know from Jen that hardly ever could actually mean quite frequently because she lies as bad as he does. But you have her saying that she likes to just watch when they're doing their activities. Here she's saying that she's pretty much always with them. It's pretty much always the three of them together. Well, Jen, how do you then explain 7,000 images and videos? Were you there?
when he stays, does he sleep with you, sleep on a couch, separate bedroom? What's like the sleeping arrangements like?
It depends. For the most part, he would sleep upstairs in the guest room, and me and would sleep in my bedroom downstairs.
Okay.
Sometimes he would come sleep in the bed, all three of us together.
Okay.
And rarely ever would I send them upstairs to go sleep alone, away from me, because I need a good night's sleep. Because if we sleep all the three of us together,
Oh, I can only imagine.
it's a king bed. But like
Yeah.
my kid karates, like she just
Well, she's a so
Yeah.
she's not a small baby anymore.
no, she's not. So it's just three humans on a bed is really uncomfortable, really tight.
So this is an adaptation from what she had told Detective Tagler in the previous interviews. Now, instead of usually they all sleep in a bed together downstairs, she's got, for the most part, Stefan sleeps upstairs on his own while Maddie sleeps downstairs with her. And then she's like, well, sometimes the three of us sleep together, making it sound that that's a rare occurrence. And then rarely ever does she send Maddie upstairs, according to this account. And in this account, it's because she needs decent sleep. So she's forgotten about the story of the sleepovers and the movies and stuff like that, and now it's about her needing decent sleep. But here's the thing. After saying it's rarely ever, she talks about how uncomfortable it is for three of them to be sharing a bed and how it's really, really tight. Well, why would you do it then? To me, that actually suggests that more often than not, Jen got rid of both of them out of that bed. But she doesn't want to admit to that. We've seen how incredibly self-centered Jen is. I suspect that there came a time when Maddie was grown enough to make it uncomfortable for three of them to share a bed. And Jen, wanting her own space, sent them both off to sleep upstairs. I think when we look at the 7,000 images, that tells a story. I think it was a rare occasion that the three of them slept together. And I think that's why in the other interviews, when she talks about it, she giggles. Maybe there's actually a little bit of duper's delight, and I know that's not normally how duper's delight works. But maybe she's giggling at the absurdity of it because she knows that it's a really tight fit for all three, given that Maddie is now almost the size of an adult. And maybe that's why you get the giggle in that other interview. The thought of how ridiculous it would be to try and squeeze the three of them into that one bed. Certainly, to me, the most significant thing from all of that is her saying that it's really uncomfortable and really tight for all three of them to sleep in the same bed. We know what Jen's like. I think she's admitting here that it was a rarity for them to share that bed. I suspect that the truth of the matter was that Jen wanted a good night's sleep every night. And having essentially trained her daughter to not be able to sleep on her own, she's taken advantage of Stefan's presence and used that as her way of getting a good night's sleep. I start to think that every single time Stefan was there, that Jen basically threw the pair of them out so she could have a bed to herself and wouldn't have to share a bed with Maddie and Stefan.
About how often was they would go, you would send them off on their own?
I would say honestly somewhere between, I'm going to say less than 5 times has this ever happened, right?
That's
it
fine.
hasn't been that
And this is
many
over the
times.
course of him visiting back and forth, correct?
You mean the sleeping arrangements
Yeah.
done alone?
Yeah.
No, that was including him living with us.
Oh.
Now we know when there's a long pause like that from Jen that the answer that comes out is not going to be truthful. She's sat there, she's thought about what she's said, and in her brain she's gone, well, I have said it's rarely ever happened. They want me to quantify that. I don't want to make it sound like it's happened too much. So I'm going to say less than 5. Don't forget, in one interview she says less than I can count on my one hand. Another interview, it's less than I can count on my 2 hands. Jen doesn't know what answer to give here, which to me says that she is avoiding the truthful answer because it could well be quite shocking.
Okay.
Hardly ever would I send them upstairs because I had that rule that she couldn't sleep alone with him. That's just me. I'm just
Right.
very...
And then you said you and Stefan have been together for about 5 to 7 years?
7 years, yeah.
Ugh, I hate it when she says, because I had that rule that they couldn't sleep together. So for the past 7 years you've had this rule? How long have you had this rule? It is a very odd rule to have. And, of course, the detectives did point that out to her in the video interview. Why would you say such a thing? Unless you are basically covering your ass. She realises that she's basically got to cover her ass over Maddie and Stefan sleeping together. She's backed back and said it rarely ever happened. She's turned around and said less than 5 times. And now, in an attempt to basically hammer that in, she's saying, I had this rule. To me, this is Jen screaming out loud, guess what? I used to let them sleep together quite a bit, and now I realise that I've done the wrong thing and I'm caught out. She really is overemphasising her reluctance to allow the pair of them to sleep together, which to me says that she was actually completely fine with it from the get-go.
10 years, okay. So you're pretty familiar with him?
Yeah.
Okay. Whose hand does that look like to you?
I would say it's Stefan's.
Is that Stefan's hand?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. So, you and Stefan, have you guys been sexually intimate before in the past?
Yes.
So you're aware of what like his penis looks like and things like that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does this look like Stefan's penis to you?
No.
No? Okay. What about that?
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly, yeah. I think in Jen speak, that means yes, it definitely is. She doesn't want to outright admit that it is, because she's just established the fact that she allowed Stefan and Maddie to share a bed. If she admits to recognising his little bit, then she's also admitting some culpability. She doesn't want to acknowledge that these things have happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're thinking that's his penis?
Might be.
Okay.
The other thing that Jen does, which is similar to fading facts, although she doesn't fade, she just goes quiet from the get-go. Basically, she lowers her voice to a really, really quiet pitch. And you know when she does that, that she's either trying to avoid giving the answer, she doesn't want the answer to be heard, or she's lying. In this instance, they've asked her to identify his bit, and she goes super, super quiet. And what does she say? She says, yes, it looks like his. And then when asked again, do you think it's his thing? She says, it might be. Both times, I had to push my headphone right into my ear just to make sure that I could hear what she was saying. She was doing her best to avoid answering, but she had to answer, so she said it really, really quietly. Why so quiet? Because she knows it is.
If anything, it's not even the penis I'm recognizing, it's the things around it.
So it's the things around it that make you believe it's his penis?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have these images, and unfortunately, over the last maybe 2 or 3 years, he's been doing stuff with and things like that.
What makes you guys...
We have photos.
Okay.
We have his phone.
Now, I obviously had to mute out what he was saying, but it starts with O and then talks about S stuff, and then VS stuff. It's probably the best I can do to tell you, but I think you know if you've heard this before. Plus, it will be on the unredacted version, like the uninterrupted unredacted version, because I figure, well, those ones don't get as many views as videos where I'm actually talking on them, so if that one is demonetized, whatever. Note her reaction though. There's no denial, there's no anger. Instead, there's a long pause and then you hear, okay, but really, really softly. That is not the reaction of someone who doesn't know that this is going on. That is not the reaction of someone who is shocked that this is going on. Or someone who wants to go and tear this guy to shreds. That is a reaction of someone who doesn't want to have that conversation, doesn't want her role in this known. Someone who, it appears to me, already knew what was going on.
We were able to get into his phone. And there are some very, very unfortunate graphic pictures of him conducting various sexual acts with. I wish I could tell you this was all a made-up story, but it's not. Did you ever suspect anything like this? No? You okay?
Shop right now.
Okay. Can I get you anything?
Maybe some water.
Some water? I got water. If you want to stay. Yeah.
So the question was, did you ever suspect anything like this? And you had to listen really carefully to hear Jen's answers. Her response was, no. I'm in shock right now. And then they ask her, do you need anything? And she wants a glass of water. Now, my expectation of a mother who's just been shown some truly hideous images which show things happening to her child that shouldn't happen to any child, is that she should be yelling. She should be getting loud about now. And if she's not yelling or getting loud, she should be bursting into tears. She should be feeling bad because she's allowed this to happen to her child and she had no idea. But instead, she's so quiet that you can barely hear what she's saying. This is not the response that I would expect. Now, let's think of a different scenario altogether. Let's say you're talking to your 5-year-old child or 5-year-old niece, and they've done something really naughty, and you're trying to give them a chance to fess up to it. So you're using the harsh adult voice, which is what these detectives are doing. They know they've done the wrong thing, so they go very quiet. And they give quiet answers because they know they're in trouble. Does it sound familiar? Jen is giving super quiet answers because she knows she played a part in this, in my opinion. She did know this was happening. If someone said to you, These horrible things have been happening to your child. Did you know about it? You would be objecting about as loudly and strongly as you could. Heck no. Where is this monster? I want to kill him. But not Jen. No, Jen goes quiet. Not only does she go quiet, but there's a break in the way she speaks. The no. And then there's a long pause before she even says, I'm in shock right now. She doesn't know what the appropriate behaviour is that she should be displaying. So instead, she claims to be in shock. Maybe. But there should be an immediate reaction after that even, of tears or anger. This is how we naturally respond to things like this.
How are you feeling right now?
I can't breathe.
Is this a surprise?
Is there photos of her?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So you know how we have his phone? Obviously, that's how we were able to find the photos in there.
Now, this detective is clearly seeing things the same way I am. This response isn't right. So in order to try and get the right response from Jen, he then asks her, how are you feeling right now? And without any breaks in the way she said it, she says, I can't breathe. Have you ever heard someone when they're having trouble breathing? Those 3 words would take a heck of a long time to come out. You would get a break in between each word as they gasp for breath. Not Jen. No, she says it quite clearly, I can't breathe. But again, she says it super, super quiet. I would expect if she is having the sort of reaction where she feels like she can't breathe, that is an almost panic reaction, meaning there should be some emotion with that reaction. Now, some people might tell you, okay, Jen can't show emotion because of the medication she's on. Well, I call BS on that. We've seen that in the the video interview, where she does become emotionally affected at times when it concerns her or when it concerns Stefan. She became upset because it was going to be the worst birthday ever for her. In another interview, one of the interviewers very cleverly gauges her emotional reaction at the beginning of the interview when he asks her about the Fox 40 interview. And he accuses her of saying that she didn't want Maddie to come home. Now, that was only part of the sentence. I think she said, I don't want Maddie to come home harmed or something. The detective would have known that, but he wanted to gauge her reaction. He wanted to piss her off. And he did, and she got annoyed, and you could hear it in her voice. You could gauge that she is quite capable of reacting. So this detective is doing the same thing. He is trying to prompt her to react in the expected way. Anger, tears, any one of those things. But all she does is whispers, I can't breathe. And she sounds like she can breathe just fine. And there's no emotion connected to it. He's still trying to get an emotional reaction from her. So he asks her, is this a surprise? Now, again, we should hear some sort of emotional outburst. Anger, tears. She should act like she is shocked. Jen actually doesn't answer the question. Maybe she shakes her head or nods her head or something in response, but we don't see that. We hear her response, which is to ask, is there photos of her? So she claims to be in shock. Now, if you are in shock, that means that it's sunk in. You understand what is being told to you and you're accepting it. And yet now she's asking, is there photos of her? As if she's in denial. Well, if you're in denial, you're not going to be in shock. But at the same time, it's not the appropriate answer to, is this a surprise? Where's the anger? Where's the emotional reaction? There's none. It is still a perfectly level voice. And once again, it doesn't sound like she can't breathe. It's said all in one sentence. This is not the reaction of a mother who does not know that this was going on. This is not the reaction of a mother who is devastated that this has happened to her daughter. This to me sounds like the reaction of a mother who knew about it all along and is now trying to figure out how she should react. She can't call up the right emotions because she doesn't have the right emotions. She doesn't feel the right emotions because this is no surprise to her.
I don't want to believe that this is true. Can I see some of that evidence?
So, after claiming she's in shock and she can't breathe, she's now saying, I don't want to believe that this is true, and asking to see the evidence. Does that to you sound like a normal reaction? It doesn't sound like a normal reaction to me at all. She just wants to know what sort of evidence they have of this. They've shown her images that she thinks maybe she can deny that they're Stefan. And now she wants them to show their hand. Like I said, if you're saying you can't breathe, if you're saying you're in shock, that indicates that you believe what you've been told. And yet now she's saying, I don't want to believe that this is true. Although she's not saying, I don't believe this is true. She's saying, I don't want to believe that this is true. I want to see some of the evidence. Now, to me, if I were to read that, instead of hear her say that, I would think that was someone challenging the detectives. Someone guilty. challenging the detectives and saying, okay, you're making these allegations, prove them. You've got nothing on me. None of this is normal. Now, help me out because I'm not a parent. And I don't know if it's fair to ask this, but if you were Jen and detectives came to you and said this about your daughter, do you believe this is how you would react? I can only think about my nieces. I would have been out that door before they'd even finished telling me, saying, where is the mongrel? Let me at him now. I would be yelling and screaming about now. I certainly wouldn't be using that teeny tiny little voice and saying, I want to see the evidence. Because I can tell you now, I wouldn't want to see it. If the detectives were telling me that, I would downright believe them. And I would be on attack mode. That's what maternal instinct is. And I'm referring to nieces. I'm not even referring to my own children. I don't have children. But this is her own daughter. Where's the mama bear coming out? There's no mama bear in there. There's nothing here that indicates a need to protect her daughter.
What makes you believe that it's not?
I thought I knew him well enough.
I just listened to that over and over, about 3 or 4 times, and I still can't hear what it was that she said. He asked her, what makes you believe that it isn't, or that it is not? And I could not pick up what she was saying. Again, we still have this super quiet Jen voice. She doesn't want to be having this conversation. But it's not because she finds it distressing or traumatic. There's no emotion to it. It's because this is probably her worst nightmare. They've suddenly found out what he's doing to her daughter, and now she needs to distance herself from it. But she doesn't realise that by showing no emotion, she's showing a heck of a lot of guilt. She doesn't realise that by speaking super quietly, she's showing a lot of guilt. And I suspect that, based on the questioning from this detective, that he's not convinced that she knows nothing. It's like picking at a scab. He's trying to get that reaction from her. He's trying to gauge what is going on with this woman. This mother whose child is missing. This mother who should be a raw emotional wreck already. Who should be easily triggered by just about anything because of the distress of having her daughter missing. Does that sound like what we're hearing here? Not at all.
You said you thought you knew him well enough?
Again, these questions from the detective, they're not designed to forward the investigation. They're designed to get an emotional reaction from Jen. So you thought you knew him well enough. There is almost an accusatory, I can't say tone because it's not in his tone, but there is almost an accusatory meaning in it. Essentially, he's saying, well, you say you know him well enough, so how did you not know about this? That should be the perfect question to trigger a massive emotional breakdown. You've just discovered that this person that you've known for 7 years is actually a hideous monster. You've just discovered that they've been doing the most horrible things to your child. And that thought should actually be at the forefront of your mind, so that when the detective verbalises it, essentially cue an emotional breakdown. I would expect the normal reaction here to be for the parent to just wind up in tears. I would expect to hear the sobbing. No anger at this point. That question was meant to get a full-on emotional reaction. We don't hear an answer. I don't know if she nods or she shakes her head, but we don't hear a reaction. There isn't the flood of tears that we should be hearing.
So, our goal, we want to find her. Can you think of anything of where Stefan would take her? Did they have any special hangout spots? Did they have any places that they would do together while you were at work or you had other things going on in your life?
So, time to get down to business. The other detectives had a go at trying to get some sort of emotional response out of Maddie. Now you have this detective stepping in and going, right, let's get back to business. Our goal here is to find Maddie. We expect some responses from you to help us with that, essentially.
The only place they would go is hang out at home. There's no place I can think of that they've gone outside. I mean, they've gone shopping to like Target before.
Okay.
Now these answers are pretty absurd, really. First of all, the only place that they would hang out is at home. Well, you know Maddie's not there. And then she talks about them going to Target. Well, she's not there either. Not that you'd really know because you've not been out anywhere to search. Her voice is getting a little bit louder. It's a bit more audible. No sign of emotion, that's for sure. Because she doesn't need to perform now. So she's forgotten that she's meant to be showing any sign of emotion or shock or anything like that. She's switched it off. And the voice level starts to come up. But at the same time, she's giving these absurd answers. Seriously, your child is missing and they want to know places where the pair of them might have hung out. Basically, places where it's possible where Maddie could be. Wouldn't you rack your brain because you want your child found? This is not the only time she does this. In the other interview, they confront her. And she says, well, I gave you a list of 5 shops that he went to. Well, sure, they're going to find Maddie there. She's avoiding giving any actual help.
but anywhere else that you can think of. What are you thinking about right now?
How this can be true, how I missed the signs.
Okay, let's address this first. What are you thinking about now? Now, they have redirected the questioning here and reminded her of the fact that her child is missing, that they are searching for her child. That should be all-encompassing in her thoughts. Yes, she should be upset about what he's done with Maddie. But right now, they've shown her evidence of things he's done to Maddie. They've reminded her that her child is missing and they need some help with finding her. And they want to know what she's thinking. I would expect to hear something like, what am I thinking right now? I want to know what the F he's done with her. I want to know where he's taken her. I'm trying to think of places where he might have taken her so that you can bring my child home and then I'm going to kill him. You would think that's still the number one priority after her child has been missing for 2 days is to find her child. But it's not. She's focused back on what he did to Maddie. It's like it doesn't matter right now that Maddie's missing. And notice how she says, how I missed the signs. Well, if you missed these signs, that means there were signs there. That tells me you didn't miss them, you ignored them. If you said how I didn't see any signs, then I would believe you. But saying I missed these signs is definitely saying there were signs there that this was going on. And it doesn't agree with saying you missed those signs. Because if you missed them, you wouldn't know they occurred. I think that's a little bit of guilty leakage there from Jen. A little bit of a screw up. She's basically admitting, I saw the signs, I knew it was going on, I ignored it.
What signs are you saying you missed?
No, I'm just saying, if there were any signs, I didn't see any.
Right.
The detective picked up on that too. What signs? And suddenly, this is the first time we hear any amount of emotion in Jen's voice. To me, it sounds like panic. Because she accidentally screwed up and she said the wrong thing. So now she's going to backtrack. If there were any signs, I didn't see any. Saying what she realises she should have said in the first time. And there is that sense of panic in her voice. Oh crap, I shouldn't have said it that way. I've just basically said that I ignored the signs.
These aren't, I'm not telling you, these aren't just Google images that we found. These are actual images. And I don't want you to see images of your daughter like that. I don't. But this investigation has taken us down this road. So wherever you think can be right now, we want to know so we can go get her safely.
Of course, I just have no idea.
So the detective here is essentially signalling to her that she's focusing on the wrong thing. Pointing out to her, they're not Google images, they're real images. But then essentially, let's get back to what's important here. We need to find Maddie. It's essentially what's going on in this interaction here. And Jen is putting on that stupid little affected voice that she does. Because she knows that she's done the wrong thing here. She knows she's given the wrong answers. And she realises that they're not playing the same game as her. So now she puts on this affected tone and has no idea where Stefan could have taken Maddie. Well, now here's the thing. You supposedly had a conversation with him after he took your car out, and he said he took your car out and he went out along 192. Wouldn't that come to mind, talking to detectives? Well, he took my car back out the night after Maddie went missing, and he said he went to this area. So do you think maybe she could be somewhere around there? He went out on Monday and he got a flat tyre, and he said he got a flat tyre around this area. Maybe you should look around there. But no, she's got no idea. And I think more significantly, she's not even trying to come up with places.
Did Stefan ever take her back down to Newport Richie?
Newport, Florida.
Newport, Florida. I'm sorry.
Alone, no.
Alone? You guys would go together?
Yeah. Or I would drive down with, and we would just hang out.
Okay. So when Stefan would not stay at the house with you guys, where else would he stay?
In his apartment in his house in Northport, Florida. That's it.
But when he would visit here, he would always stay in your house? He would never go get a hotel or stay at a friend's house or anything like that?
No, he stayed at our place.
Okay. Why did he go to Newport, Florida this morning?
This morning?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so as you can tell, the pup has decided it's playtime. I've already had a big long break and a play with him, so I'm just going to let him play on his own for now. Now, they're pushing the conversation along, and they bring up the fact that Stefan went down to Northport, and they ask her outright, why did he go down to Northport this morning? Well, I think they called it Newport, but we knew what they meant. There's a pause, and then there's a somewhat quiet, I don't know. But it's not a, what are you talking about? He was in the hotel with me. She's not questioning him. She's got no problems with the suggestion of him actually going down to Northport. She just doesn't know, apparently, why he went down. And the way she says it, I don't know, is almost offensive. I don't know. Why should I know that? Why are you asking me this question? Can we go back to asking a question that I can find answers for a little bit more easily? I suspect that she did know that he went down to Northport. Heck, I mean, it's a 6-hour round trip. Now, I don't know if she drove her car at all through that day, because we know that they collected her and Stefan from the hotel. We also know that they collected her car from the hotel once they got the warrant. So it's possible that she might not have been in her car to see that it had suddenly gained a whole heap of miles. But she knows he took her car out that morning. Didn't seem too bothered by it. her only concern was that just maybe he was going to get himself arrested for not being at the hotel, which is a really dumb thing, given that at that point in time he wasn't even named as a suspect. But she doesn't act remotely surprised over this question of him going to Northport. Again, her reactions just don't match the questions.
I'm just curious. I heard a rumor that he possibly went down there.
No.
I don't know. Them is maybe lost in translation.
No, he didn't. We were in the hotel. If anything, he stepped out to go get some Wawa
Okay.
and then came back.
But how long was he gone for?
Jen makes herself look really bad here. So he confronts her about the trip down to Northport. And then from her reaction, he's like, well, I heard that. Like, you know, he doesn't want to immediately give solid confirmation of that because he wants to gauge Jen's reaction to try and figure out if she did actually know. And her first response is, we were in the hotel. And she states that quite clearly and quite confidently. And then the voice would get the fading facts, basically. If anything, he stepped out to get some Wawa. And you hear her voice raise as she says Wawa as a question. Basically, she can't help it, but she's questioning if they believe her. Here's my story, do you believe me? And then she's obviously feeling a little bit less confident because I had to listen carefully to hear what she said then. And she says, and then came back. But she said it so quietly. Which, of course, to me suggests that she knew full well that he didn't just slip out to get some Wawa and that he didn't just slip out and then come straight back. And then, when asked how long he was gone for, it's so quiet that you almost miss it. I wouldn't know. So after basically saying we were in the hotel, I'm his alibi, we were in the hotel, and if anything he slipped out to get some Wawa. Now when you say someone slipped out to do something, that implies they were only gone for 10 minutes or so. You would have to know that as a fact. Yes, she could be going on the hearsay of him saying, I slipped out to get some Wawa. But she knows that supposedly, based on the time that she rang Chris, she was up for about an hour before Stefan got back. And also based on the hotel surveillance, which shows her taking the dog out for a walk an hour before Stefan got back. She doesn't offer up any of that information. And if I was going to say someone slipped out to do something and I knew that they'd been gone for at least an hour, I'd be lying, wouldn't I? That's more than just slipping out to get some Wawa. Sure, we get the story of he got lost. But even still, she didn't give that in this interview, did she? She's doing her best here to provide an alibi for him. She should be trying to help them out with regards to finding her daughter, but she doesn't give them any of the crucial information here. Well, I thought we were in the hotel together, but when I woke up this morning, he wasn't there. And he didn't get back for an hour, and he claimed that he went to get Wawa and then got lost. Of course, the problem with that, which they will have discovered later, is that it shows quite clearly we have Records of their hotel room door opening about 5 minutes before Stefan is seen in the hotel lobby exiting the hotel. Just after Stefan has exited the hotel, their room door opens again, meaning that Jen was up at around 4:30 in the morning, or 3:30 in the morning, when Stefan left that hotel room and headed down to Northport. She's the only other person that had access to that door. We know that Chris's door didn't open during that period of time. He was tucked away in his own hotel room. So, after Stefan was caught on camera leaving the hotel, Jen was up. She even opened the hotel room door. So she knows that he was gone from 3:30 in the morning till 11 o'clock in the morning. Did we ever hear her give any of that information to the detectives? No, none of it whatsoever. Instead, she tells them that, if anything, he slipped out to get some Wawa. Full stop, end of story, but I don't really know how long he was gone for. BS, Jen, you know exactly how long he was gone for.
Does he have a new phone since we have his, or?
I think his dad may have handed him a new phone.
Okay, do you know the phone number to that new phone?
No.
Okay.
Now, we know that Chris did give him an iPhone mini, which was apparently a spare business phone of Chris's. Jen would know that too. So, even though she sounds a bit hesitant to admit it, like, she's not really sure, of course she knows that is the truth. Now, when they ask her if she knows the phone number to that new phone, again, she's rather quiet. I actually suspect that Jen did know the phone number for that new phone. Here's what I also suspect. According to Chris, he gave Stefan that phone at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, just before Stefan was taken in to be interviewed. I believe that Chris gave Stefan that phone as soon as he arrived at Orlando. I wouldn't be remotely surprised if the GPS data from that phone shows that it actually travelled back down to Northport again that particular morning and then returned to Orlando. I also wouldn't be surprised if it shows phone calls between that phone and Chris's phone that particular morning. And even a phone call between Jen's phone and that phone. Obviously, this is nothing that can be proven right now because we haven't got any data for that phone, but I will come back to that at another time and explain why I believe this is the case.
What's his dad do?
Works in real estate. I think he's a broker.
So look, we just need any information. Any.
No, I know, but there's nothing I can give you. There's nothing I can...
Did you communicate with Stefan on the new phone with your phone? No.
Here's the thing that makes me think that Jen did communicate with Stefan on that phone. We're supposed to believe he got the phone at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, one of the things he mentioned in the interview that wasn't redacted, that we heard, was him saying that the phone decided to re-initialise. Now, if you are familiar with iPhones, they don't just initialise and then decide to re-initialise. When you are setting up your phone, even if you get partway through and you stop, it will take you back to the point where you stopped. I know this because I only recently updated my phone. I've updated a number of iPhones now over the years. They don't reinitialize themselves. You would have to do a factory reset on that phone for it to reinitialize. So that to me makes me think that that phone was set up before his interview. Meaning that he probably did have it from the time that Chris arrived at Orlando. I would love to see the data from Jen's phone to see if there was communication between her phone and that phone at any period of time after that phone arrived in Orlando. And of course, it sounds to me that those detectives either know or suspect that there was communication between those two phones, because they're doubling down. We just need any information. And she's like, there's nothing I can give you. And that's when they ask, are you sure, was there any communication between you and that phone? They seem pretty keen to get an answer from her regarding communication between her phone and that iPhone mini. Generally, detectives only push something like that when they know that the person is not being truthful. Again, that points to the fact that Jen is lying here and there was communication between them that morning on that phone.
I just want to. I believe you. I want to believe you, but I won't believe you until I see actual images of my child.
Are you sure you want to see that?
So, we get the Soto sigh, and then we get this segue away from discussing the phone, back to discussing the images that Stefan had on his own phone. She really doesn't want to talk about that iPhone mini, does she? She doesn't want them to push her anymore regarding whether or not there was a conversation. But she's so matter-of-fact the way she talks about these images. And she's so calm. And the way she's discussing it just is not what you would expect from a parent. She says to them, I believe you. Well, I want to believe you. But I won't until I actually see images of my child. Well, that leads me in two different directions. First of all, that's not a natural response. Now, we are basically conditioned to believe that people in authority are going to be truthful towards us. I know there's going to be some cynics in there, and I know what you're going to say. But in this sort of situation, Jen is being told, we have these images showing Stefan doing these horrible things to your daughter. They've made it pretty clear to her what he was doing. And she's saying, I don't want to believe you. I want to believe you, but I'm not going to until you show me the photos. There's no emotional reaction. No, oh, why is he doing that? How dare he? This coming from a person who said, I used to joke about this Woody Allen situation. I was always told never to trust the man. And I didn't always trust the man. I didn't allow her to have sleepovers because I was worried about what might happen to her. I did have reservations about allowing her to go up and sleep upstairs with him because I knew it didn't look right. And now she's claiming that she won't believe them until she sees images. No. Nobody is that stupid. She is being manipulative. She doesn't want to admit that she has guilty knowledge here. Based on everything else that she has said, the only option here for Jen, if she knew nothing about it, is to lose the plot. She has basically herself given all these reasons to believe that he may be taking advantage of her daughter without explicitly saying it. And now she says, I won't believe it unless you show me the pictures. I don't believe you, Jennifer Soto. But here's something that concerns me even more than that. We hear these cases of these kind of dysfunctional families where stuff is happening to the child and the child approaches their parent and says, this is happening. And the parent doesn't want to believe it because they don't want to destroy their relationship. Did Maddie ever go to Jen and say, this is what Stefan is doing? And Jen said, I want to believe you, but I don't. Because it seems to me that had Maddie ever attempted to approach Jen about what was happening, that's what the reaction would have been. And it concerns me, wondering if that may have ever occurred. We know that Maddie's counsellor was encouraging her to speak openly with Jen when things were calm. Well, one of the biggest things in Maddie's life was this situation with Sterns. What sort of reaction would she have got from Jen had she gone to her when things were calm and said, this is what your ex-boyfriend is doing to me? Even if Jen knew, I think she would have said, I want to believe you, but I don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can't help thinking, based on what Jen is saying here, that even if she had not have known, and I believe she did know, but had she not known and Maddie spoke to her about it, she would have brushed it off, just like she did here.
I'll go get it. Are you sure you want to see that? And as a parent, take my word of advice. I wouldn't, blow smoke up your butt and tell you, that's a fake picture. I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't. I'm gonna be dead honest with you. I'll be more than happy to show you those images, but I know as a parent, I don't know if I would want to see those. But if you want to see them, that's your own prerogative.
Can you tell me what's being done in the photos?
I'm sorry, but I don't understand. Why would you ask for a description of what was being done to your daughter? Most people at this point in time would either be having a complete emotional meltdown or would be going into a rage. And they sure as heck wouldn't be asking for details of what's in the pictures. Because for most people, most normal parents, just to be told that there are images depicting things occurring with your child, that would be all that the brain can cope with. The brain is not designed to cope with all the extra stuff. So why is Jen asking for the details? That is not normal.
her mouth. And that picture that you said that the stuff identified that Stefan's around her, I zoomed in on that photo because in that picture has a in her mouth. Do you need any more water? Are you okay?
I literally thought I was coming here for the press conference, but this is not what we're here for.
Clearly this detective is also somewhat taken aback by Jen's reaction, because he's pretty explicit in describing to Jen what's in that image. I've, of course, had to redact a little bit of it, but he's telling her that Maddie had a thing in her mouth. He said the word for the thing 3 times. Was he doing it to be cruel? No. He was doing it to gauge Jen's reaction. Because a normal parent, hearing that there is a photo of their ex-partner with his thing in her daughter's mouth, that should be enough to send someone off. That should be enough to get some sort of reaction. But what does Jen do? Sorry, puppy playtime. Jen gives one of those Soto sighs, and then there's a long pause. And he asks her, do you need some more water? Are you okay? Now, you would expect at that point in time for a parent to burst out in tears or to start yelling and to say, I'm not okay. And to actually have a response that relates specifically to the information she's just been told. Where is that mongrel? I want to deal with him now. Or, being in tears to the point where she can't breathe properly and can't even speak. That is a natural reaction for a parent who's just been told something truly hideous in relation to her child. She should already be super fragile because her child is missing. Meaning that she should be even more easily triggered. And when he asks her if she's okay, now normally, in that sort of situation, asking a parent if they're okay opens the floodgates. Not for Jen. She puts on that affected voice, that little girly voice that is just a whole pile of you know what. I thought we were coming for the press conference, but that's not what we're here for. Well, that's not the reaction that should have been coming out of her mouth. She's now more concerned about the fact that the detectives deceived her into believing that they were picking her up and giving her a ride for the press conference. That's essentially what she's saying here. You deceived me, and now you're telling me this information, and I thought I was coming here for the press conference. This isn't what I signed up for. Is she really that delusional? Like I said at the start of this video, we know she is capable of emotion. We know she's capable of firing up. We've seen that in the other interviews. She's not doing that here. She's right now, her main concern is not about the stuff that they're telling her about, but that, hey, you told me I was going to be here for the press conference. And that's not what we're here for. She doesn't even sound pissed off about it. She's just like almost frustrated. Just that stupid, affected Jen voice that's makes you want to throttle her.
I know, and it's unfortunate that, these are the details that we found, but I think it's very important now that we kind of sit back, evaluate everything, and kind of think every step of the way where Stefan has been with him in the past, where he can be right now, because at the end of the day, we want to go get her.
Yeah, of course. Oh my God.
So we actually finally get a little bit of a reaction from her. It's very quiet, it's whispered, and it's, of course, and then OMG. Now, okay, so we're getting a reaction from her, but what is she reacting to? We want to know Stefan's movements. We need to try and figure out where he might have taken her. So it's about them wanting to know information about Stefan. It's about them pressuring her to give them information about Stefan. So we didn't really get much of a reaction over the images. But when it comes to they want to put the pressure on and want her to squeal on Stefan, this is when we get a reaction. She doesn't want to squeal on him. That's the way I read it. She's not reacting to them basically saying, we want you to help us because we believe Stefan's taken her somewhere. No. She's reacting to the fact that they want information from her that's going to help nail Stefan's ass.
If I knew anything, I would tell you. I just have no fucking idea where you could be.
I always get wary when I hear someone say, if I knew, I would tell you. Because it's generally not something that needs to be said. If I knew, I would tell you. I have no effing idea. And she's like, if I knew where he is. Well, right now she should have known where he is. He was in the other interview room. I don't think that's exactly what she was referring to. But I don't like it when someone says, if I knew, I would tell you. Because it's a given. Especially given that she's known this guy for all this time. She's lived in this area for who knows how long. He's lived with her on multiple occasions in the area. So she must have some idea. You can't tell me that she can't draw conclusions. I think you should probably look somewhere off 192, because that's come up in conversations twice now in the last 48 hours. Or, well, he was gone for this amount of time, so he could have gone this far. But she's not offering anything other than to say, if I knew, I would tell you. There's not even an attempt to help them try to figure out what he's done with her daughter. And with that, my question is this. This interview was 3 o'clock on the 28th. Now at 7 p.m. on the 27th, there was the interview with Detective Tagler with Stefan. After which, Jen decided, well, they're looking at you, Stefan. We need to ring your dad and get him to come and help because they are focusing on you. So she's had almost 24 hours. Well, she's had 21 hours to process the situation. Her number one priority should be figuring out where her daughter is. And if they are, as she says, focusing on him, a normal parent would be looking back on every minuscule detail of the last 48 hours to see if there's any clues as to why they are focusing in on him. And heck, there's plenty of them that Jen should be able to figure out. Meaning, she's had time to process the fact that they are focusing on him. She's had time to process all the odd things that have gone on over the past 48 hours or so. Which also means that she's had time to process possibilities of where he may have taken Maddie. Unless she is a complete utter spud. I should probably qualify that. I know everyone's calling her a potato, but I think spud is a far better term. Probably if you are from the UK, you get this. If you're from Australia, you get this. A spud is what we call potatoes in Australia. But it's also a term that we use in Australia. It's a colloquialism for someone who's a bit dumb, a bit of a waste of space, a bit of a blob. So it is an actual insult. God, he's a bit of a spud. Meaning, well, he's a waste of space, he's dumb, he's a blob. He hasn't got a very high IQ. And right now, Jen certainly seems like a bit of a spud. Her claiming that she's got no idea reeks of deception to me.
So I know that.
Could be.
Say again. I'm sorry.
Or any idea where she could be. I said they, but
Yeah.
he's here.
Actually, Jen, you said you haven't got any idea where he could be. So now correcting yourself to where she could be and saying, I said they, says to me that in your head you are connecting Maddie's disappearance with Stefan. Because you've just basically slipped up, in my opinion. I may be wrong. It's not one of those gotcha moments, but it's certainly something that makes me raise my eyebrows. To go from referring to Stefan and then correct herself and say, I meant Maddie, even though I accidentally said they. And then because he's here. It seems to me that she's definitely putting Stefan and Maddie in the same location together in the context of them asking her where she thinks that Maddie might be. Is she admitting here that she knows that Maddie was with Stefan and Stefan took Maddie somewhere? Note also that she's already forgot to do the affected voice. She's forgot to sound distressed over Maddie being essayed or Maddie being missing or any of that stuff.
Was there any... The video footage that was caught at the church? What exactly was seen? I've heard from other people, but I just...
Do you know much?
It looked like someone around age that walked by, but it's inconclusive whether it was or not. Right? It was too grainy. The video was not. You couldn't determine who it was in the video, pretty much.
Now, whichever way you look at it, Jen full well knows at this point in time that Maddie wasn't in that footage at the church. You have, for starters, in an earlier interview, shortly before that interview, one of the detectives showed her the images of the person and the images of the vehicle. And she agreed that that vehicle was a Toyota of some sort. She knew that it wasn't Stefan's car. Now, we know from the documents that, yeah, it wasn't Stefan's car. It was a dark-coloured car. But basically, Jen was shown enough to know that that wasn't Maddie at the church, and it wasn't Stefan's car. Of course, if Jen was in on this from the beginning and knew what was going on, then of course she's going to know that that wasn't Maddie and it wasn't Stefan's car. Whichever way you look at it, if she didn't know what Stefan had done, she did know by now that that wasn't Stefan in that car and it wasn't Maddie in the footage. If she did know, she also knew that it wasn't Maddie and it wasn't Stefan's car. So she is deflecting. Either way you look at it, she's deflecting. They're trying to pressure her to try and place Stefan and Maddie together. Where do you think he's taken Maddie? We get the sigh, and she's like, was there any? She pauses, another sigh, before she questions them about the church footage. This is a pretty transparent attempt at avoiding basically saying that she knows what has happened, that she knows that Stefan put Maddie somewhere. Because she wants them to go back and focus back on the church footage. She wants to create this alibi that, no, Stefan didn't do anything with Maddie because he dropped her off. And I know he dropped her off because there's footage from the church. But she knows full well that that's a lie. This to me actually is one of those gotcha moments. Because the only reason for her to bring up the church, when she definitely 100% knows that that wasn't Maddie, is basically to try and deflect from the questions that are being asked at that point in time. She doesn't want to be asked about anything that would connect Stefan with Maddie's disappearance, because she knows that that connection exists.
So we don't know that she walked by that church. So the last person that saw was Stefan.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like her and Stefan seem to think that when you get a different detective questioning you, that they're not going to know anything about the case. Which is so not the truth. I mean, honestly, she really is a spud. He's now basically put it back on her. There's a big long pause because she doesn't know where to go with him basically saying, you know, he has essentially said to her here, that's not Maddie at the church. He's giving her time to process and respond and to possibly get back on track to where do you think Stefan could have taken Maddie. She doesn't respond, so he has to lay it out for her, telling her that basically the last person with Maddie was Stefan. And you hear her echo that very quietly, because she knows that is the truth. The way she echoed, it could have even been just a reflex. Not really thinking about it, and when he said the last person with Maddie was Stefan, and she basically echoed it at the same time, before thinking that she was just dumping him in at big time. Because she's trying to convey this disbelief. Stefan's innocent. And then she does these little things that show that she actually does believe that Stefan was the last person to see Maddie. Don't forget too, this is before the video interview. And in the interview, the video interview, she's still protesting and trying to say that Stefan is innocent and that she doesn't believe any of it. Well, it's hard to believe her when in this interview, she's pretty much dumping him in it. Now, I think I'll pause there and come back tomorrow with a longer video. I've had lots of different things on the go today, and of course this video is pretty much a day late already. I ended up with a migraine yesterday. Unlike Stefan, I didn't think it was some halo of somebody in the side of the room. I knew it was a migraine. I knew I'd been spending too much time on screen, so I gave myself a break because I have a slightly higher IQ than Stefan. On that note, I think this is a good spot to stop. And I will come back to this tomorrow. There's still quite a lot of this interview. This is the longest interview that was done with Jen. And there's a lot of this dancing around going on. So I will do a longer video tomorrow because I'll be able to start earlier in the day. I don't have too many errands to run. Could be an interesting one because I'm babysitting my sister's pup as well, so you will probably hear crazy puppy noises in the background if that is an incentive to come and look for this next video. So on that note, thank you for listening. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. Also, please hit the like and leave a comment. Especially leave a comment. The more comments, the better, because that is what gets my videos out there and seen by more people. I recognise that as someone who is extremely reluctant to do live streams, because I'm just too ADHD to focus, that it is certainly the better option for me to just ask you to make lots of comments or make comments, because that way, while it is a slower growth than someone who does live streams, at least it does start getting my videos out there and seen by more people. So on that note, thank you, and I will catch you in the next one.